Good morning, everybody, to our January meeting of the South Jersey Men's Club. I guess it's, I don't know, maybe the 10th Zoom meeting we've had, something like that. I guess we started last March or April. Seems to be working out well. We are at least able to get together. We don't have to leave the house, which is nice, I guess. Although I think we're all ready to leave the house. I am, I know that. I wish I could, but shopping is about it. So anyway, let's get started. As you all know, we have Jim Plousis and George, George, I forgot your last name. Ingram in my old age, right? This morning. And David Schwartz is going to introduce them, and then Jim will give his presentation. We'll have questions afterwards, and then a short business meeting. David, let me change this to
good morning, everyone.
Hang on one second. All right, here we go. Go ahead, David.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to first thank Mike Perloff for arranging for this wonderful speaker this morning. I certainly appreciate it. I will read a short bio for Jim Plousis now, and George Ingram, who works with Jim, will do a short bio as well. And I'd like to greet my brother Saul, who's somewhere out there watching our meeting. He wanted to see one after all these years of me being in the men's club. Anyway, here we go. Former U.S. Marshal James Plousis takes an engaging look at his life and career in his book, Jersey Lawman, Life on the Right Side of Crime, with proceeds going to the U.S. Marshals Survivor Benefit Fund. This first-person narrative tells the story of Plousis and his more than 4 decades in law enforcement, from rookie cop in a rough New Jersey Pine Barrens town. Jersey Lawman was awarded second place for best nonfiction in the 2020 competition of the Public Safety Writers Association. Plousis was a police officer in Ocean County, New Jersey, before being elected sheriff of Cape May County at age 32. He served in that post for 5 terms, earning national recognition for his innovative approaches to law enforcement, public safety, and incarceration. President George W. Bush appointed Plousis as a U.S. Marshal in 2002. In this position, he fought to bring the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Safe Surrender program to the Garden State and worked on high-profile cases here and abroad. For 7 years afterward, he was chairman of the New Jersey Parole Board. He now chairs the Casino Control Commission in Atlantic City. In the book, Plousis also relates to his personal projects, including a humanitarian mission to earthquake-ravaged Haiti. Plousis and freelancer George Ingram agreed at the onset that the U.S. Marshal Survivors Benefit Fund will receive the proceeds from Jersey Lawman. It is a private nonprofit corporation formed exclusively for charitable and educational disbursements of its fund to the surviving members of active United States Marshals, Deputy U.S. Marshals, Marshal Service employees, and Special Deputy U.S. Marshals who are killed in the line of duty. Daniel J. O'Donnell, chairman of the fund, called the offer a generous contribution to help the families of slain U.S. Marshals. George, are you ready with your, I'm sorry, hold on. Let me wrap it up. The late actor Brian Dennehy last year wrote this about Jersey Lawman. I have played many law enforcement roles as a sheriff cop and federal agent in television and movies. So this is an honor to recommend his book about real life of a sheriff and U.S. Marshal in New Jersey. Jim Plousis is a man I know and have worked with to make Camden, New Jersey, a safer community. The book is published by a division of Callahan Services. You can go on Amazon to find information about the book. I'm finished. George, would you like to give your bio?
I'm a Philly boy, grew up in Philadelphia, went to high school, Central High, and Temple University. And after Temple, I worked as a newspaper reporter for, started out as the Press of Atlantic City, went to the Trenton Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer. And then I did what newspaper people say, went to the dark side. I went into public relations at Temple and retired from there, but continued doing freelance writing because I just like to do it. Jim is a neighbor of mine, and that's how we got together. We live on the south end of Ocean City. It's a really tight-knit community. Many of the people here are full-time residents. We take care of each other. It's like an old neighborhood in Philadelphia. And we look out for each other, and we have gatherings. And when we first moved down here, I would see this tall guy holding court, telling these great stories. And I finally got to meet him. And after a while, I said, Jim, you've got all these wonderful stories about your career in law enforcement. You really ought to put that into a book. Well, he wasn't excited about that, but he finally came through, and he told me one day, he said, okay, I'll do it. But the proceeds have to go to the U.S. Marshal Survivors Benefit Fund. I said, great. And we started working on it. One day a week, he would come to my house. I'd take notes. He usually brought a bottle of wine, which helped the creative process. And sometimes people say, how long did it take you to write the book? And I said, well, about 10 cases of wine. And we finally got it published. It's $20, paperback. You can get it on Amazon. As I said, the proceeds go to a very worthy charity. Right now we have 87 5-star reviews, and not all of them are friends and relatives. And so that's about it. Jim is really the star of the whole thing. It's his life story, and up till now. But Jim, you want to take it from there?
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. And you're too kind. And let me just footnote, I want to thank David for that great introduction. And of course, I want to thank Michael Perloff for this invite. Don't hold it against me. I've known Michael for around 20 years, and but I appreciate him inviting us today. Let me just say a little bit more about George. George is really too modest there. George has written another book called Fishing the Delaware River, which is a very good book. I've read the book. It's been out for around 20 years. And George has written for numerous magazines in South Jersey on fishing and outdoor activities. So George, and hopefully somebody buys the book. I know Michael has already read the book, but George did a terrific job on weaving history into the book, as well as making it very entertaining. I mean, I get a lot of what the feedback has been terrific, and honestly, it's because of the quality of the writing. And hopefully, if any of you do pick up the book or get it from the library, that you'll enjoy it as well. Just a few words about the Marshal Service Survivor Fund. It's a fund that pays for the funerals and education of Deputy U.S. Marshals and Special Deputy U.S. Marshals who are killed in the line of duty. Last year, we paid for 2 funerals, one in Texas, one in Georgia, of officers killed in the line of duty. And then we put up a scholarship for their children of the deceased officers. And it's not only for Deputy U.S. Marshals, but Special Deputy U.S. Marshals. That would be local policemen that are assigned to a federal task force going after the worst of the worst fugitives. So we're honored that we've been able to help the Survivor Fund, over the last couple of years. The book's been out since February of 2019. Needless to say, with the pandemic, our sales, just like this meeting, we've had numerous readings, that we were supposed to be in libraries or in front of different groups, but of course we had to do it by Zoom. That has hurt us. And there's no question about it that the anti-police sentiment out there has hurt us as well. But, we've been lucky. We have, your group today, and we have two other groups that we're speaking to this week. So we've been trying to get the message out in regards to the book. And what I'd like to do is just give a quick overview of the book. And I was going to tell one quick story out of the book. As George mentioned, I was a local policeman, then I was a county sheriff, then I was the U.S. Marshal, and then I was chairman of the parole board. So I have the unique perspective of working at every level of law enforcement. And you'll be able to see that in the book, the difference from being a local policeman to be the county sheriff and to be the U.S. Marshal, and then ultimately being at the parole board. So it gives you a good overview of, the different challenges and the different experiences that somebody would have in all four of those positions. As I say, I've been very lucky to have those opportunities. And I think the book gives you a little insight in those positions. As it was mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be the U.S. Marshal under President Bush for the District of New Jersey. There are 94 federal marshals in the United States. There's 94 federal districts. So the president appoints the U.S. Marshal for each of the federal districts, and he appoints the U.S. Attorney for each of the federal districts. New Jersey's one federal district, Pennsylvania is 3, New York is 4. That's how we end up with the 94 federal districts. But the Marshal position is rich in history. The first U.S. Marshal was appointed by George Washington, just like the first U.S. Attorney was appointed by George Washington, and that tradition has continued, for the last 250 years. So I was honored to be in that position. Ironically, when I was the U.S. Marshal for the District of New Jersey, Chris Christie was the U.S. Attorney under President Bush. So I had the opportunity to work for 8 years with former Governor Christie. And I knew him when he was a county freeholder in Morris County when I was a county sheriff. But what I'd like to do is just tell one story it's in the book. When I became the Marshal in 2002, Camden at the time was rated the most dangerous city in the country. And we were doing a lot of enforcement activities down there. We had a regional fugitive task force that I had stood up with some federal funding, where we got local sheriff's deputies and the local police to help the Marshal Service go after the worst of the worst in Camden. So we were trying to arrest our way out of the problems and the rating of being the most dangerous city in America at the time. And it wasn't really working. So a friend of mine who was the Marshal in Northern Ohio, Pete Elliott, started with a program in Cleveland called Fugitive Safe Surrender, where he partnered with the churches in Cleveland, and any fugitive could surrender at a church, and then they would be brought to a courthouse and they would get favorable consideration. I was intrigued by the idea. Pete did the program for 4 days in Cleveland, and 836 fugitives surrendered. Now, again, they got favorable consideration. It wasn't an amnesty. But the positive part of that is that, when local police or the U.S. Marshals go after a bad guy, the first instinct is either fight or flight. And, a lot of officers get hurt trying to execute a warrant. A lot of times they end up in a high-speed chase where an innocent civilian gets hurt. So if we can get a fugitive to surrender, it's a safety factor for everybody, for the public, for the officer, and ultimately even for the fugitive. So I wanted to replicate that program in Cleveland. Congress had allocated funding for 10 cities, and I was hoping to be the second city. So I got permission from the Marshal Service to do it. And I was trying to work with the courts in New Jersey to have the program. And I ran into a roadblock with the Chief Justice. She didn't want it, at the time it was Chief Justice Debbie Peretz, and she didn't want any parts of the church being involved in an operation like this. So myself and the U.S. attorney at the time, Chris Christie, met with her, and we tried to explain to her, look, they're surrendering at the church. There's a comfort factor for fugitives. The surrender in the church. We weren't doing the court proceedings in the church, but she didn't like that setup. So I went back to a number of clergy, Father Mike, Mannion in Camden, who was spearheading this with Reverend Parker, a Baptist minister at Antioch Baptist Church, a very big church on Ferry Road, I'm sorry, in Camden, if you know the area. So I was ready to throw in the towel, but Monsignor Mike and Reverend Parker said, please continue to fight. Camden really needs, a boost in the arm, and this sounds like a project that could work. Now, I don't know if you're aware of it. In Camden, back in 2005, when we started, that there was roughly 167 churches in Camden. If you ride through Camden, the only thing that really was holding that city together was the churches. And we invited all the clergy to a meeting at the cathedral cafeteria there, right behind the main church there. And we were getting 50 to 60 clergymen each week for a luncheon to work on this program. So fast forward, Chief Justice Peretz retired. A new Supreme Court justice came in, Justice Azali. We proposed it to him. He didn't want it. So we were in a holding pattern. The good news was that he was only there for 10 months because he was coming up to mandatory retirement. So after that, Stu Rabner became the Chief Justice. I knew Stu Rabner. He used to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office. So did Chris Christie. So Stu Rabner signed off on the project. Now, it was, to be exact, it was 208. It took almost 3 years to get the project moving. So we did the project in early November of 208. We did it for 4 days. So the kickoff day, I went up there, and I live in Ocean City, as you heard. So I went up there around 5:30 in the morning, and we were at Antioch Baptist Church. And when I got there early in the morning, 5:30, people were already lining up to surrender. So we expected 800, maybe 900 people over the 4 days. The first day we had over 500 people there. So we had people waiting in line, and as I said, some of them started lining up at 5:30, and we had some people that would literally be there all day till 8 o'clock at night to get this favorable consideration. And we had set up the judges across the street in a senior citizen facility. We had 3 judges the first day, but that couldn't handle it. We had to add more judges. So we had the church ladies make some food for the inmates or for the fugitives, but we didn't expect that kind of numbers. So we had literally people waiting all day, some 12, 13 hours, and we needed food. So ironically, when we were doing the project on the first day, the Governor Karzine called me, said, what do you need? And Chief Justice Rabner called me. I said, I needed more judges. But I got a call from a guy, and he says, I belong to a group here, and we would like to help you. What do you need? And I said, well, I don't need any more volunteers, but I said, I need food. I said, if you can help me out with food. So that guy says, what, we can do it. We can help you out with food. So ironically, that man was Mike Perloff, and probably some of you guys made the sandwiches. So Mike came later in the day and delivered a couple 100 sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, that probably kept these guys calm enough that they wouldn't cause a riot in the church and tear up the church. And for the next 3 days, every day, you guys, and with the leadership there, your member there, Mike Perloff, provided literally hundreds of sandwiches. And you guys did cut them in half just in case somebody didn't want to eat a whole sandwich. They didn't waste it. But I can't tell you, in all honesty, the old saying, an army moves on its stomach. If these guys didn't get something to eat, heaven knows what they would have done to the church, because some of the guys have been waiting 12 and 13 hours. So I got to publicly thank you guys. You guys are mentioned in the book prominently there. in that chapter, but you really saved the day because, as I say, we were out of food and I didn't know what we were going to do for food. But I do have to footnote, we replicated that program 4 other times in Newark, Trenton, Atlantic City, and Jersey City. And you guys delivered the next 4 times for me. So I got to publicly thank you guys that it was a great project. We ended up having over 2,400 people surrender in Camden, and total out of the 5 fugitive surrenders, we had almost 16,000 people surrender and get a second chance at life. So it was a win-win all the way around. We literally collected tens of thousands of fines that the guys owed. As I say, they didn't get amnesty; they got favorable consideration, and it was a positive program. It's been emulated around the country, but we were the most successful in New Jersey. And again, I just want to. That's the Reader's Digest version of the story, but again, you guys really came through when I needed some help there with that project. So I want to publicly thank you and your member, Mike Perloff, who thought ahead and called and said, what can I do for you there? And it came through. At this time, I'm going to flip it over to George, and George is going to give you a few other details. George?
Jim gave you the background on the Fugitive Safe Surrender program. And one of the things that struck me in all the times that I interviewed him throughout his whole career, as a rookie cop in Woodbine, where there were 5 bars in the town. You can imagine being a rookie cop with 5 bars to patrol. When he was sheriff, when he was U.S. Marshal, he had a way of improvising. If he had an idea, he went with it. He worked hard for it, and that's what impressed me. You know, the Marines say, if you're in trouble, you improvise, and he would do that throughout his career, and he has a propensity for being a fair guy and taking everyone he meets on a fair level. And what else can I say, Jim? It's just a privilege to know you.
Thanks, George. Yeah, I pay George well for those comments, guys, if you're wondering there. So, you know, I didn't want him to go on too long. I usually pay him $20, and that was a $20 compliment there, you know. Well, Dave, at this time, you know, we'd love to throw it open for some questions here. You know, I know you guys have your business meeting as well, and I think we're right around the 20 minutes.
If there's something more that you want to speak on, go ahead. We've got time, or if we can open it up to the questions, whichever you want.
Okay, great. Well, you know, if you don't mind, I'll give you one other quick story in the book that might be timely. I was sheriff of Cape May County, as you saw, and one night my wife and I are watching TV, and I think some of you might remember Connie Chung. And Connie Chung was doing a segment on this group of children down in Blairsville, Georgia. They were called the Wilderness Scouts. And it was a group of children and a scoutmaster who would deliver firewood and help out the senior citizens in Appalachia. But they were being sued by the Boy Scouts of America because they were using the term scout. Well, ironically, at the time, and I've been involved with scouting for many, many years. I was a merit badge instructor, and it really caught my ear. I said, "Why are the Boy Scouts suing this group?" So it showed these children doing a good job and everything, and it just bothered me that the Boy Scouts were suing this group. So the next day, I went to work, and I had an atlas of sheriffs, and I said, "Well, I wonder if I know the sheriff that is in the area of Blairsville, Georgia." So I looked up in the directory and I found out that it was in Union County, Georgia. And I didn't know the sheriff, but I had his number. So I called the sheriff. His name was Tommy Duncan. So I called the sheriff. I said, Tommy, what's the story with the Wilderness Scouts? And he said, well, they've been around a couple of years. He said, the scoutmaster is Harold Cornwell, a disabled Vietnam vet. And I said, why don't they join the Boy Scouts? Why are they fighting? And he says, they can't afford to join the Boy Scouts. They don't have the money for the dues. They don't have the money for the uniforms. He says, they're dirt poor kids. He says, we're at the foothills of Appalachia. They can't do anything in regards to the economics. And he says, not only that, it's boys and girls. So I said, do you know Tom or Harold Cornwell, Tommy? And he says, yeah. And I said, can you give me Harold Cornwell's phone number? So he gives me the phone number. And I called Harold. I said, Harold, your story, the work the kids are doing is great and all. And I said, I'd like to help you. Now, this is October. I said, what can I help you with? And he said, well, we can always use camping equipment and we could always use food. I said, okay, I'll do a can drive for you up here and I'll ask for camping equipment and see what I can do. And then he says to me, well, we can use a bus to get the kids around. I said, well, I can't help you with the bus. I said, I can do a food drive and a camping drive. He said, okay. So I get off the phone and I call local reporter, Sonny Schwartz from the Atlantic City Press. And he said, Sonny, can you run an ad? I want to help these kids down in Georgia. I said, Harold Cornwell will tell you about how poor the kids are and everything. So we start doing a food drive and I'm getting some camping equipment and all. So we do that through October and now we're in November. And I have a brother who lives in Atlanta and he calls me and he says, you're in the Atlanta Constitution today. I said, I am. And I said, what about? He says, oh, you're helping the Wilderness Scouts. I said, yeah, I'm helping the Wilderness Scouts. And he says, where are you getting a bus? I said, whoa. I said, I'm not getting a bus. And he said, well, in the newspaper article, it says you're getting a bus. I said, no, that's wrong. I said, read me the article. He says, in there it says, the sheriff from New Jersey getting a bus. I said, I got to get off the phone. I hang up. I call Harold. I'm ballistic. I said, Harold, what the hell are you saying? And he said, oh, Sheriff, I got carried away when I was talking to the reporter. I said, you can't say I'm getting a bus. And he said, well, you can get me a bus. I said, no, I can't get you a bus. He said, well, you got to try now. It's in the newspaper. I said, I don't have to try anything, Harold, but you're giving me a headache. And he's an older guy and he's a Vietnam vet and disabled vet. So I said, Harold, I'll try, but I can't guarantee a damn bus to you. I said, I got the food and I got the camping equipment. So now we're in November. So I go back to Sonny Schwartz at the Atlantic City Press. I said, Sonny, you got to take it up a notch. I need a bus. He says, a bus? I said, yeah, they need a bus to get the kids around. He said, okay, I'll try. So he runs an article. I need a bus. I get a call from a school district. I go over, look at the bus. The bus doesn't have any wheels on it. I said, this won't make it 800 miles to Georgia. So Sonny runs the article again. I get another call for a bus. I go look at the bus. There's a tree growing through the bus. It wouldn't make it out of the yard, let alone 800 miles to Georgia. So now I'm giving up. And now we're into December. Sonny Schwartz continues every week in a human interest story to put it in. So now I'm not getting any bites. I'm out of luck. So now it's like December 15th, 16th. And my wife says to me, no matter what, you better ship the stuff down to the kids before Christmas. I said, you're right. So a friend of mine was Frank Lobiondo, the local congressman who owned a trucking company. I said, Frank, could you do a charity event and ship all these? I had a trailer full of camping equipment and food. He says, yeah, I can get it down there before Christmas. So I'm home on December 18th, and I had a landline in my house. Like if you could, it would say sheriff Sheriff Plousis, you could call and it would be my home. And I would have a tape on it because I would tell the kids not that my children or my wife don't pick it up because some of the guys would just curse or whatever, But so I'm home and it's, to be exact, it's December 18th. And I get a call. It's around 8 o'clock at night. I pick up the phone and the guy says, "You the sheriff?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Sheriff Plousis." He says, "Are you still looking for a bus?" I said, "Yes, I am still looking for a bus." And he says, "I have a bus for you." I said, "You have a bus for me?" And he says, "Yes." And I said, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm Donald Trump." And I said, "You're Donald Trump?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Tomorrow go over to Trump Plaza and President Steve Hyde will be there. He'll show you the bus that I'm going to give you." And I said, "Really?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Well, thank you very much." And he gave me Steve Hyde's cell phone number. And the next day I called Steve Hyde, the president of Trump Plaza. I said, "Mr. Hyde, Mr. Trump called me last night. Can I come over and look at the bus?" He says, "Yes." And I go over and I said, "Well, I got to get on the road. I got to load up this stuff and I got to get to Georgia and I got to be home because I have children. My wife will kill me if not home for Christmas." So Mr. Hyde said, "Well, Mr. Trump did give you the two caveats." I said, "No, Mr. Trump didn't tell me any caveats." I said, "What are the two caveats?" And he said, "One, Mr. Trump wanted to put a new stereo system in for the kids, and we're doing that as we speak." I said, "Great." I said, "What's the second one?" He says, "Do you see those big signs on the front and the side of the bus?" I said, "Yep." He says, "Well, you're not allowed to take them off." I said, "That's not a problem. We can leave them on." So I said to him, "You got to get everything done quick." I said, "I got to drive." I said, "I have two volunteers and myself." I said, "We got to drive this bus down to Georgia and I got to drive back. I got to be home for Christmas." So he says, "We'll have the bus done the next day." So he says, "We're going to have a little ceremony here." He says, "Mr. Trump can't make it. He's in London, but I'll be here with my vice president, Mark Edis, and we're going to do a little ceremony." I said, "Whatever you want to do." So the next day, this is the 21st now, I go over and we have a ceremony where he gives me the title and the keys. And we're getting ready to leave. And Steve Hyde grabs me and he says, "I want to help out." And I said, "Mr. Hyde, you've done enough." And he says, "It's Christmas time. Mark and I want to help out." And he says, "You don't know how much gas is going to cost you to drive down to Georgia." So he gives me an envelope and we leave. I get in the bus and it was an envelope and Steve Hyde, Mark Edis said, "This is our Christmas donation to the Wilderness Scouts." He gave $500 for the gas. So we drove the bus down. We presented the bus to the Wilderness Scouts. First thing they did was circle the bus and say a prayer. And then I was able to get back for Christmas. The sad part is that February, if you remember, there was a helicopter crash of Trump's helicopter and 7 people got killed on it. And ironically, Steve Hyde and Mark Edis, the two men who donated that money to the Wilderness Scouts, were killed in that plane, in that helicopter crash. Fast forward, George and I we're in contact with Harold Cornwell. The Wilderness Scouts are still doing well. They've had over 35 boys and girls go through the program. They're still going strong down there. They did sell the bus and they bought 2 smaller buses a few years after I donated the bus to them. So they're doing well. But that's the short version. There's a chapter in the book about that. It goes in a little more detail. Sports Illustrated did a big article on the whole thing as well. So I just thought it was timely. I know we hear about Mr. Trump in a lot of ways, but when nobody else would help me, he stepped up in 1989 and nobody really knew what he did, big time. And his staff, the guys were first-class gentlemen, as I think you can understand with the donation. So, okay, guys, I'll take it question and answers, and George will.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to ask you if you have a question. to either raise your hand in the Zoom function or just raise your hand and I'll recognize you and you'll have to unmute yourself. So hang on one second. Let me get back to gallery view. I saw Mike Perloff's hand go up, and since he's so famous, we're going to recognize him. And I know from talking to some of the other members, they all remember the peanut butter and jelly assembly lines. So go ahead, Mike.
Yes, thanks so much, Jim and George. I think we have maybe 5 or 6 people here who were helping with the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Raise your hand if you were part of that group. Yeah, at least. And I can remember we had one fellow.
I was there.
Yeah, we had one fellow who had Parkinson's, and he was sitting there. We had a big spread underneath him because he'd be doing his hands would be going like this when he's got the knife with the peanut butter and jelly, so there'd be stuff flying all over, and he'd be laughing, we'd be laughing, but it felt good to do hands-on and then going over to the sites and delivering it. For the ones that weren't in Camden, there was always someone who came and picked them up from the U.S. Marshal's office. Also, one of our members, I think 2 of our members who were judges at the time, Irv Snyder and I forget the other one, but remember Irv Snyder was, I think, one of the key judges there.
Yes, he was. Yes, as a matter of fact, I just saw a video of him the other day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Amazing. And Jim was a keynote speaker at one of our law breakfasts, one of the last ones we had back at the JCC. I don't remember what year it was, but did a fine job. And he mentioned Chris Christie, governor, but when Chris Christie was U.S. attorney, he was also one of our keynote speakers. One thing I think you forgot to mention that I'd like you to would be the program where Amazon, where your book is being sold, will make a donation depending on the number of reviews. And you don't have to purchase a book to do a review. And when you're mentioning that, would you also mention how, surprised the hell out of both of us, they're actually censoring some of the reviews? Jim?
Yeah, Mike, if we get 100 5-star reviews, Amazon will make a donation for each of the review to the Survivor Fund. So that's why we've been trying to get to 100. The sad part is that we had one chief of police who bought the book, did a review, and he wanted his picture in uniform with the review, and they wouldn't let him post himself in uniform. I mean, in his police uniform. That's one. And we've had a few others that mention law enforcement in the review, and Amazon wouldn't put it up. So, it's been an uphill battle all the way around with this dynamic of, anti-law enforcement, which I hopefully will blow over sooner than later.
All right, anyone else? Gary Sternberg?
Oh, yes, Jim, thank you. I just have a question. There's a lot of different law enforcement agencies. You have the local police, you have the county sheriff office, you have the New Jersey State Police, and then even at the federal level, you have the U.S. Marshal's Office, you have the FBI, probably others. What exactly is the role of the U.S. Marshal Service compared to all the other kinds of police organizations? What specifically is your function?
Gary, that's a great question. And ironically, when I was asked to be the U.S. Marshal, that's what my wife asked. What does the Marshal do? And I had to explain it to her. Ironically, in the Federalist Papers, when they were structuring the Constitution, they said that the U.S. Marshal will do the functions similar to what the county sheriff does. So ironically, the functions mirror what the sheriff did. We were in charge of judicial security like the sheriffs are, fugitive apprehension like the sheriffs are, the transportation of prisoners. We also did the witness protection program that the sheriffs don't do, but anybody in the witness protection program are protected by the U.S. Marshals. We set that program up 36 years ago. There's literally thousands of people in the program. That's top secret, the number, but anybody in the program, stayed in the program, never was killed or injured. In addition to that, the Marshal Service liquidates all the assets of criminals. So if you're a drug dealer and you get your house confiscated, the Marshal Service would sell your house or your cars or any of the ill-gotten items that you got through the drug for the criminal activity. So again, to summarize, we do judicial security, fugitive apprehension, prisoner transportation, the witness protection program, and the liquidation of assets seized by criminals by all, the FBI as well as the DEA.
I have to interrupt. Could you say something that nobody ever heard about? Arresting a ship.
Yeah, we would do that. We would arrest, as Michael said, we can arrest a ship, and we did, as well as airplanes, through a civil court action where we would seize the property, and then ultimately we would auction it off. Matter of fact, when I was the marshal, we had over $2 billion in assets that we had handled ironically, when I was the marshal, I handled a lot of Bernie Madoff's assets that were on the New Jersey side of the river.
Anyone else? Raise your hand. Dick Knopf?
Yeah, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm curious to know I don't want to get too heavily into politics, but certainly with what happened January 6th and the extremists and the white power movement, was that something that the U.S. Marshals tackled? I mean, I guess it's more of an FBI function, but I'm curious to know, first of all, your own sense of that, and also would there be any involvement of the Marshals in terms of going after fugitives from the January 6th attack?
Dick, that's a great question. Let me just say one thing. The Capitol Police have 2,300 officers. For them not to be prepared for any kind of situation, the chief of police, as you know, resigned immediately from the Capitol Police. I mean, they are a very large force. As I say, 2,300 to be exact. For them not to have more staff on standby that day, there was no excuse. And not only that, he had the ability to have the assets of the Marshal Service. We have a large presence in the DC area, and we always come to the aid of the Capitol Police or any agency that would need us. So that was a breakdown all the way, a breakdown by the Capitol Police, but they should have called in other resources. That never should have happened. I mean, it's tragic all the way around. But any terrorist, domestic or foreign, would be investigated by the FBI. Now, there's a joint terrorism task force in each federal district, and the Marshal Service has a presence on that, as well as the major local police departments. But the FBI is the lead agency on all terrorism.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Ed Silver?
Okay. Can you tell us what the signs were on the bus? I'm assuming it said Trump.
It said Trump. Ironically, you'll get a kick out of this. We're in North Carolina driving down, and we're stopped at a light. We had people who wanted to get on the bus. They thought we were going back to Atlantic City. True story. We said, no, we're going the wrong way. We're going south. We're not going north, and we're not picking up any passengers.
So as long as thanks, Jim. As long as we have Ed on, good morning, Ed. We're all glad to see you. It looks like you're recovering well. You've lost some weight. You look slim and trim. Hopefully you're on your way to a full recovery.
Thank you. It looks like I am.
Good. Who else? Somebody started to talk, but I didn't see who it was.
I got a question.
Bernie Schuster.
Hi, good morning. A couple of things. The senator that threatened Nancy Pelosi, is that a threat that she should be arrested or should she be prosecuted? Because that's a dangerous thing. And the other question I have is, my National Guard unit is down there in protecting the Capitol. I have about 1,000 people down there, Pennsylvania National Guard. I was a captain. And they may need help for the families that are left up here because it seems there isn't enough money they get paid when they're down there. It's just a sad situation. So we have 1,000 families that may need help. So I may call on the organization to help them as they come back to me with whatever. Dave Singer, the other topic, is back in the hospital. He's doing poorly. He's got COVID. he's I don't know, he's in various stages of this. So I just want to bring you up to date because he's a nice guy and I feel bad for him. So back to my original question, is Nancy Pelosi's threats from other senators or whoever, are they something that you should arrest these people and do something to them? Because this is a violent threat. I know if someone did this, they're subject to a prosecution or arrest.
Well, I'm not familiar with the threat, but I know in my days, any threat against any official or judicial official, we would talk to and in New Jersey, we had numerous federal judges, and of course they had threats, and they were our protectees as well as the U.S. attorney. When Chris Christie was there, he had a lot of threats, and we would evaluate them. There's no question. Some people have mental health issues, and some people just couldn't fulfill the threats. So, I mean, again, there's a number of factors that go into it before we charge somebody, but we did review, and I'm confident the Capitol Police will be reviewing all those threats.
But she's still threatening. She's making statements that are just off the wall. The other thing is, Lynn Abraham was a friend of mine. She was district attorney of Philadelphia, and she would have bodyguards go with her because when she was prosecuting the druggies and all the other people, she took their property and give it to the churches, and she was constantly threatened. So she had sometimes 2 or 3 people with her with multiple weapons because she was constantly being threatened. This senator that's doing this, she's off the wall crazy. I mean, she's making anti-Semitic comments. She's making comments that, it's just, she's nuts. And if they don't sanction her, do something with her, would the authorities take her in? And this is a threat on Nancy Pelosi and the Jews. I mean, she actually threatened everything. So I'm curious to see what you folks can do about it.
Now, as I say, the Capitol Police is the first line of protection for the Congress and senators, but then if any valid threat would be prosecuted by the FBI, not the Capitol Police.
The other thing, which is strange, when they had this Black Lives Matter, they arrested God knows how many people. Here they only arrested 100 and some people. I don't think they're really going after them as strong as they should. I mean, there was thousands of God knows how many people were at the Capitol. Could be tens or 20,000. And 190 seems so light. It seems like they haven't really tried. And that's what, and in the Black Lives Matters, they brought buses in and things in there to arrest the whole group of them. And in this situation with January 6th, they had very little presence and very little arrest. I mean, 190 some arrests is nonsense compared to how many people were there. What's your comment on that?
I know they're using extensive facial recognition. I know the FBI has all their field offices around the country drilling down on it. So I think the number will definitely increase. So I think it's a little early in the process. So
I think it'll go up to the thousands.
I don't know if it'll go that high, but I think it's going to go, more than it is now. And, again, a lot of this goes back to the Capitol Police. I mean, it would have been easier to arrest the people there, but as you know, they just didn't have the staff on.
Why did they bring the National Guard in sooner? I mean, my unit was called Days Later, which is really sad.
Yeah, I agree.
I've been on the alert when we had in the 60s, when I was in the National Guard full time. They brought in thousands of people into Philadelphia when they were having riots all over Philadelphia. And we were very ordered not to have weapons because at Kent State, the National Guard killed 4 students. So we did not have ammunition for our weapons, but there they are with weapons, no ammunition, and they were taunting us. They were really, it was horrible. It was horrible. I am just so saddened that this happened January 6th. It just shows the lack of continuity in our government. It just shows they weren't organized and didn't have action fast enough. They weren't speedy enough to do something. So
no, you're absolutely right. I mean,
it kind of pisses me off.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bernie. Someone else, raise your hands if you would, who hasn't spoken. Let me go back. I don't see any here. Don Weisenstein, good morning. Would you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, I came on a little bit late. I was curious how many members of the South Jersey Men's Club have surrendered so far.
That's
Just kidding.
I'm afraid I can't get that number out.
When is your next, you continue safe surrender? When is the next one, or?
There's none at the moment scheduled. I'm not, ironically, when I was marshal, I did 2 of them, and when I was chairman of the parole board, I did 3. But there's none other scheduled. I'm not at the parole board anymore.
That's a shame. It sounds like such a good idea and such a successful program.
Yes, I agree. I was saddened when nobody carried the ball, picked up the ball and carried it.
Thanks, Don. Anybody else? Gary again?
Yes, I have a question for George. George, were you at Temple in the 70s?
Yeah, I was at Temple in the 70s.
Okay, I asked that because I was in the 70s. I was a student at Temple working for the Temple News, and I know I talked to you various times. Now, how do you feel about going from being a newspaper reporter who used to bug public affairs people to being a public affairs people who were bugged by newspaper reporters like myself?
I went through withdrawal symptoms. That's why
it's good to be.
Newspaper people say if you go into public relations, you go to the dark side. But
right.
if on the other hand, if you go into public relations, I can't think of a better place to be than a university, because I could have lunch with a guy who just came back from CERN, Switzerland, where he was smashing protons and neutrons together, and then go to the faculty club later that night to have a beer, and you're talking to a guest speaker who just wrote a best-selling book. It's a great place, all these people together, and if you're curious and want to learn, it's a great environment. You have to. Things happen. A student gets stabbed, or I was involved. I got in the middle of a fight one time between the veterans against the Vietnam War and the veterans who were in favor of the Vietnam War. Some bad things can happen on the campus, but overall, it was a great job.
Thanks, George. Anybody else? Questions, Mike?
Yeah, 2 things. One thing would be, if before we're finished, if you could tell people exactly how to do a review of the book on Amazon. The other thing is, I did read the book, and we're on page 341 for our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And the thing about it is, you also, as U.S. Marshal, you sometimes go overseas to serve warrants. Could you mention something about that, please?
Yeah, that's a great point there, Mike. If anybody's arrested around the world, the Marshal Service is tasked with bringing them back to the United States. So when I was the Marshal, we would have a rotation. Everybody would be involved with the rotation, myself included. So, I had the opportunity to do a number of foreign extraditions. One of the tougher ones was out of Albania. As you know, if you're not familiar with Albania, it's the poorest country in Europe, one of the poorest countries in the world, to be exact. We had to go over there and pick up 2 guys that were wanted out of Bergen County for a double homicide. So it was an interesting trip. I won't get into details, but the book has some interesting stuff in regards to Albania in there. But that's a great question. And on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, I would send people literally around the world to bring back fugitives that were wanted in this country.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Hands up, if you would.
Reviews, Amazon reviews.
Amazon, Mike, you're not suggesting that people do reviews who haven't read the book, are you?
There's a summary on Amazon.
Oh, you read the summary and then do a review? I don't know if that's really something that we should be suggesting, but you can keep it in the back of your mind. I don't think Jim, as a law enforcement officer, would condone that. Doesn't sound right to me.
No, exactly. No, it's an easy read. Most people can read the whole book. I know Mike only looks at the pictures.
I think you've got it, Jim. Anybody else? Good morning. Let me see hands if you would. If not, I don't see anybody's up. If your hand's up and I don't see it, you can unmute yourself and say something. But if not, Jim, I want to thank you and George both. Very interesting stories, and I'm sure reading the book would enlighten us all as to exactly what the Marshal Service was all about and all your law enforcement experience. You've mentioned some places, Woodbine. I've been through Woodbine a few times. I'm a Vineland boy, so it's not too far away. I don't remember all the bars, but maybe it couldn't be before my time because I don't think you're older than I am, but I guess I never had a beer in Woodbine. But in any case, thanks again. The club would like to donate $100 to the U.S. Marshal Survivors Fund in your honor. And we
Thank you.
we thank you both again for this morning in your wonderful presentation. We're going to have a short business meeting. If you want to stay with us, you're more than welcome to. If not, au revoir.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
It was
great
real
day.
honor. Thank you.
Ed,
Yes.
aren't they also entitled to a 1 year?
I'm sorry, I forgot. You will be getting from us in the mail a 1 year membership, the two of you in the men's club, and hopefully you can join us for a future meeting, either on Zoom. We can let you know. If you would just, you have my email address. If you would, George, we can send them, or George or Jim, either one. We can send them both to one of your homes. I guess you live very close to each other, it sounds like. Give us one of your addresses and we'll send the certificates there. And again, thank you so much. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, George.
Thank you, guys. It was an honor.
I have a few short subjects. Dave Schwartz, our Israel trip, I know we're thinking about it for February or March. I think you're still in the planning stage there. It looks like Israel is still under some.
I am.
Yeah, I know they're the #1 country.
I think so, yes.
I believe for vaccinations as a percentage of population, but I think they're still under restrictions. So I guess we can't do it yet, or have you heard anything? David?
I'm waiting to hear.
Okay. All right. We'll let everybody know who signed up for that.
I had contact with Paula last week. I'm waiting to hear.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. While we're on, I know we saw Ed Silver shortly, and he's doing well. I think I saw Joel Magnus on this morning. And Joel, did I hear that you weren't feeling well, or can you unmute yourself? Okay, good.
What happened?
Yeah, I was tested positive last Wednesday. What's that called? I got the what's the called? It's the Bamo infusion that seemed to have helped. And my fever is broken. My fever's down. I know fever for the last couple of days, and looks like I'm turning the corner. So thank you for your card.
That's good.
Good.
Good. We're glad to hear that. And nice to see you on this morning. That makes us all feel better. Thank you.
Ed?
And my dad is getting a shot today.
Oh, good. Good. Let's see what else. Hang on for a minute here. Gary, I want to thank you. I don't know if you guys saw the article in The Voice this week about our contribution to the food bank. Gary got a nice article in The Voice. If you haven't seen it, we'll send it around. I'll send it around later in the day to everyone.
Actually, Randy already sent it out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Did it already go out? Okay,
Yes.
good. Randy, I guess, sent it out. I know a few of us volunteer at the food bank every other Thursday, and I know we're looking for at least one more volunteer. And if you don't want to volunteer for every other Thursday as a fill-in, if you could let me know, or Mike Perloff or Bob Greenberg know that you can volunteer. We're only there for 2 hours. We're either making up sets to be delivered to recipients or shelving food that's been donated. They've had a lot of food donated recently. It's really a worthy cause. We have fun doing it. And of course, we're doing a good thing. So if you can volunteer, please let us know.
And I just want to, can I say something
Sure,
about
where are
the
you? I
food
don't see
bank?
you. Is it Dick?
Yeah, you
Yes.
see me? It's
Yes.
just Dick, right?
Yes.
There's also an opportunity to deliver groceries from that food bank, and my wife and I have been actually doing that for 2 or 3 weeks, and you just drop it off. It's a pretty safe procedure, but that's another opportunity to volunteer through Jewish Children and Family Services, in case anybody's interested.
Yes, I know a number of us also are doing that. I think.
By the way, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I invited David Schwartz. We have another David Schwartz that says David's iPad, who used to be a member of our men's club at one time and is now moved to Margate. And David, you want to say a couple of words? Can you unmute do you mind if can you unmute yourself and just say hello? There he is. Can you unmute him, or he has to do it, right?
No, I can. It'll take
There
me a
he is.
minute.
Now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good. You're good.
I'm unmuted now. I can't see myself, but
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Oh, you're handsome.
nice to be back. Nice to be back for a meeting. It's been a while, and looking forward to attending more meetings. I've been down here in Margate, but as Dick reports to me, if you got the Zoom, you're in. So I'm in.
Right. Well, we had 52, I think, was our high count this morning. So we're consistently getting 45 or 50 people to the meetings, and I think we're all enjoying it. Hopefully,
Right.
I wanted
South Jersey includes Margate, so I'm in.
Okay. All right. Very good.
And Florida.
And Florida, right. Randy, I want to thank Randy again for getting out all the notices to the members. He consistently manages to do that, even though he gives me a hard time all the time, but he does the job.
It's my job to give you a hard time.
It's his job. It's his job. What else do we have?
Ed, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, on that same page, the article about our donation appeared in The Voice. There was also an article about Nelson Melitz receiving a Member of the Year award from the National Jewish War Vets.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Nelson.
Okay, congratulations, Nelson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Marty?
One other thing is, guys, on this request for volunteer for somebody to help at the food bank, we really need at least one more person, because we've had several that had to drop out for business reasons. They didn't have the time, or a bad shoulder or something like that. We're not lifting weights, but we do need another body or two, seriously. So if there's any way, shape, or form you can make it, find time in your very busy schedule to help out for 2 hours once every 2 weeks. We really need some help.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike, make the write-up, send it to me.
Nominating committee, Marty, do you want to just give us a quick update?
Yeah, excuse me. We're still looking for additional people who would be interested in potentially joining the board. There will be a few openings, so if you're interested, please contact me.
I was going to say, there's positions on the board that don't take a lot of time, so don't feel that you're committing yourself for 20 hours a week. I mean, I'm going to say, if you spend a few hours a month in some of the positions, that's great. But we'd like to get some new participation on the board. It's nice to have some people who haven't served before, and if you can serve, let Marty know that you'd like to serve, and we'll consider. Anybody else? Go ahead.
It's Alan Finkelstein. I'd like a show of hands from all the members. Who has been vaccinated? Because I've registered on covid19.nj.gov. I've registered with Cooper. I've registered with Virtua, and I even was a walk-in. at Rowan College in Sewell and couldn't get vaccinated. And yesterday, I was given a telephone number for the Berlin ShopRite that they are starting to vaccinate. But when I called their number this morning, they said all the appointments were taken.
Yeah, it
Has
sounds like it's a numbers game. You just have to keep trying and keep going into the sites and working at it. I don't think there's any magic unless somebody knows some magic. Please chime in.
Well, I think that since the average age of our group is in the 70s, we should be in group 1B, regardless of our age.
Well, I think if you're over 75, at least, I know you're in 1B. I don't know about 65.
I am 65 and I have asthma. So I've been trying as hard as I can to find a place that where I can schedule an appointment.
Al,
The one with the mega site at Morristown Mall, which is Virtua, I got on the list. I registered on the website. They said if they get a cancellation and I can be there within 15 minutes, I will do it. I told them I live in Cherry Hill and I can be there in 15 minutes if you call me.
Ed.
Go ahead, Rich.
I got my vaccination. I got my second one this past week at Riverside Urgent Care. It's in Cherry Hill on Route 38.
That's where my wife is going today for her second shot. She's a dental hygienist.
Call them, and I know they do take appointments. They're only giving out 15, she told me 15 to 20 per day because they want to save the reserve for their second shots, but they are taking appointments. So give them a call, Riverside Urgent Care.
I've even tried them. I emailed
Really?
them.
Okay.
And they haven't responded.
Call them. Keep trying to call. Once you get through, they can schedule you.
Nelson?
If you are a veteran, you can get your vaccination on Saturdays at the Mass Vaccination Center in Philadelphia. It's not at the VA hospital in Philadelphia. Yesterday, they had in Gloucester Township a mass vaccination for veterans, but you had to register ahead of time, get an appointment. They gave out over 300 vaccinations. So it is available if you are a veteran. Contact me. I'll give you more details.
I can chime in just a little bit. If you go on one of these websites to sign up and there's no room for you within a reasonable time period, that's the truth for that moment in time. You almost have to go back onto these websites 3 or 4 times a day in order to find an appointment that becomes available, because many people drop out and at least they're courteous enough to cancel themselves from those lists. And if you're only trying it once, you're not going to succeed, because most people are spending their whole day trying to sign up because they got nothing else to do. And if they give you a phone number, you try calling, because each of these public sites has many people manning the phones that they didn't have a month ago.
Thanks, Lee. Anyone else? Bob Greenberg?
Yeah, Alan, unfortunately, what I found was that if you didn't apply early, the reservations were eaten up weeks at a time for every couple of hours that you delayed trying to sign up. If you got through to the virtuous setup, which is not Rowan, which is the Morristown Mall,
Yeah.
Did they give you a date?
No, they didn't. I have a date with Cooper to go down to Camden County College on May 10th.
Hey.
An idea how crazy it was when I registered on their website 3 weeks ago. They wanted my insurance identification card. They wanted me to scan the front and the back and upload it to the website. By the time I did that, the opening that they had on May 6th was gone. And
Okay, here's a hint.
Unavailable.
Go ahead, Rich.
If you go on that site, the Cooper site for the Camden, my wife went through there. She and a couple of friends, the trick is don't put in any insurance information. Because
That's right.
First of all, it's free they don't need it. And if you don't put it in, you'll get through immediately. Once you start dealing with the insurance information, that's when you get the holdup. Don't put the insurance information
Well,
in.
Too late. I've already done that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
knew
well-
that it was free,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't let me proceed any further until I uploaded that.
Yeah.
One other thing, Alan. Most of the hospitals require you to go onto what's called MyChart. And
I
actually
am on my
set up- Okay, the problem with MyChart is if you have a credit hold on any of the credit bureaus, it will not identify you, and it will not allow you to set up a MyChart. So if you have a credit hold, go to the credit bureaus you have a credit hold on, temporarily suspend the credit hold, then you can get on the MyChart, then you can get a list of appointments. The other thing is, when you get a list of appointments, there's a refresh at the top of the message. Hit that immediately, because what happens is that they give you dates which are already filled. I don't know why it does that, but it gives you dates. It took me 2.5 days, and that was three and a half weeks ago. It took me 2.5 days to get a appointment scheduled for Marlene and myself, and we're not until like second week of February.
Mhm. No, I don't have a credit hold, thank God.
Well,
But I did have.
I'll chime into that and say I have a credit hold on all our accounts, and I had no problem with my chart. So I don't know where that information came from, but it didn't stop me.
It comes from MyChart. It actually tells you.
Well,
It actually tells you that if the MyChart doesn't verify your situation, your identity, it will tell you to remove the credit holds. And it also depends on whether or not you've ever visited the hospital before. If you've ever visited the hospital, then they will identify you.
Well, I can tell you that I put my wife and I both in early in the process. I was very lucky. Somebody told me they were opening up Blackwood, and one of us had an account with my chart, and that was easy because it filled in some of the information. The other one didn't. We filled in all the information. We both have credit holds on all our accounts, and we still have those credit holds, and it didn't stop either one of us. So I guess it could.
Yeah, Ed, that was because you already had a MyChart, and it already identified you and identified your wife. What I'm talking about, if you've never had a MyChart set up with a particular hospital, they block you out.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Don?
Let me say something.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
No.
It's aggravating what's happening with the state. There's all kinds of different systems in place. They shouldn't have done this. Keep this in mind when we reelect the governor and the other people. I'm not being political here. This is serious. We should have one system in place. Everybody should have access to it, and we should know the rules and regulations associated with it. It's just plain aggravating. Thank you.
But Nelson, the problem started at the top. There was no direction from the federal government from everything I've heard.
That's not correct.
I don't believe.
I think I'll disagree with you.
Actually, a lot of other states are having bigger problems than New Jersey.
But I'm not going to get into
I
politics.
know.
The states were not ready. Don't blame it on them. Anyhow, we have a new person in charge at the top.
right.
Hopefully it's improving.
Yeah, it'll get straightened out.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
over time, everything.
Oh, here comes Rabbi Lewis. Where is he?
Alan Magnus, go ahead. Yeah, but
Don.
Alan Manis, I'm sorry. Alan Manis, you need to unmute yourself.
You already called on Don.
Well, Don's hand's still up. I still see him, and I will not forget about him. He's hard to forget about.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I enjoy coming to the meeting. This is the first meeting I've come to in a while, but I don't appreciate politics. I don't appreciate being told that I should consider somebody else's voting for another person. I don't appreciate it. I don't think that should be part of our group, and I think it needs to be said. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Don?
A couple of things. First, My wife and I are getting our shots next week in Hamilton Township, New Jersey, by Trenton Barnabas Hospital. So, Alan, you might want to try them. The other thing I wanted to share with you is a bit of good news. My radiation treatments went very well for my prostate cancer, and my oncologist actually discharged me. So,
Yay.
very happy to report
Very
that.
good.
Very good.
Good news. Good news. Thank you.
How about your probation officer?
Let's not go that far.
Anyone else? Hands up. Bill
Yeah.
Roth? Bill
Yes,
Roth.
I'd like to say, I first, when I did go to register, I registered here in Jersey, just signed up and figured when they're ready to call me, call me. Then I heard something from Nelson through the JWV post and Camden County that the VA was also giving it. And since I'm a member of the VA system, I registered with them. I just went on Friday and I go back February 19th for the second shot. So as Nelson had said, if you're a member, if you're a veteran, get on the VA system. Sign up with them, whether you use them or not, or it might be a problem because they don't have you on the list. I guess because I was on the list and they figured they saw how old my age, which is going to be 78 in March, they gave me an appointment right away. And they didn't have a problem.
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Hands up.
David
or-
Schwartz.
David Schwartz.
Just want to tell you, David Singer is home. He was in Abington Hospital. He had a reaction to the vaccine.
Oh.
But he's
Oh,
better
boy.
now.
So it was a reaction to the vaccine. It's
Yes.
interesting. It's interesting,
Is,
and I don't know what the medical. Maybe Lee could expound on it a little bit more. But I guess people who've had COVID and have gotten over it and have some immunity, they still get a shot. It sounds like, I guess.
Right.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. Your body has this whole army of antibodies and T-cell infection fighters that are already present in low numbers if you've had the infection, even if you've had the infection with 0 symptoms. And if you get the vaccination, it supercharges your antibody system. And that's a hellacious event in terms of fever, pain, potentially nausea, headache, and fatigue. That's why some people, when they get the second shot in the vaccination series, get a different reaction, a bigger reaction, because it's a supercharging event.
Lee, does it sound like, and I've heard this from other people, the second shot, that there seems to be more reactions to than the first shot?
Well, there is, but it's just a bunch of aches and pains that'll go subside with Tylenol, muscle weakness that goes away, and those reactions I've had myself after my second shot about a day later. The intense part was about 4 hours long, and there was some lingering discomfort and tiredness that went on for another day. But it didn't really start until almost 18 hours after the second shot. It was not immediate. And I get allergies to everything, so I was expecting something.
Thank you, Lee. Anybody else? Hands up? No?
Yeah, Louis Aaron.
Louis Aaron.
Yeah, good. I can see that we're all very, very concerned about getting the shot, and it's truly understandable. But we do realize that it's going to be a long time, and I encourage everyone, even after we get inoculated, as soon as possible, God willing, that we remember to maintain social distance, wearing masks, hand washings, things that we should have been doing all our lives anyway. And also that we also need lots of patience. The other thing is that I know that Phil reminded us that today is Super Sunday, and this is Also, Super Week, in which the Federation of Southern Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey is going to be asking each and every one of us to make our annual pledges and donations, and I encourage everyone to do so. And also reinforcing Phil's statement that we should announce that we are SJMC members. The other thing is, please, if you're not making the calls and only receive the calls, be really nice to us who are making the calls. It's really sort of a tough thing. So please, please be kind, and even better, make your pledge now so we don't have to call you. And give credit to Phil so he gets it all down. So otherwise, I want to wish everyone all the best. Snowy day tomorrow, so my second inoculation has been canceled, waiting for a rescheduling, and that's about it. It's great seeing all the folks.
Thanks, Rabbi. I have a question for general members because I can't put the little chat hand up. Is somebody in the chat said they're having trouble using the chat or they can't bring it up?
Yeah, Ed, it's Lenny. I also have lost my little blue hand, and I cannot figure out where it went to or how to get it back. So I put that thing out. Does anybody else know how to retrieve the little blue hand when you hit participants?
Lenny, I think you're the only one with a little blue hand. I don't know anybody.
No, there's a chat function where you can raise through the program a little blue hand in the top left-hand corner, I believe, if you're using a computer. At least I don't know about an iPad, but I don't believe I can do that as the host. But I thought all the participants could do that. If you put your arrow in the top left-hand corner, is there a little blue hand popping up or no?
Not on mine.
No?
No, not on mine.
All right, I will look into it.
And Bill Rosa, I have that little blue corner here, and it says meeting information. I just put my arrow on there.
It says waiting information?
No, meeting
information.
Meeting information. I have it in the upper left-hand corner on my screen.
Well, I will look into the functionality and see if we can. I know we had it earlier in our meetings, but it doesn't seem like it's available any longer. Anybody else have any info on that?
The raise hand function is under reactions now.
Yeah. I see Larry Bernstein has his. Oh no, that's a thumb. That's not a hand. No, that's
into reactions.
That's not a finger.
Ed, go into reactions. Go into reactions, and at the bottom of reactions, it says raise hand.
Not on my screen, Bob.
Not on mine either.
It won't be on the host screen.
Right, I can't do it as the host, but if you can.
6 choices under reactions, and raise hand is not one of them.
Right, the thumb up is not a raise hand. Don't mistake that. This is a little blue hand that pops up.
If you go to participants, at the bottom it says raise hand.
No, that's
the little blue one.
Yeah, on some programs, but not on all.
Oh, really?
It depends. It depends on what version of Zoom you have.
As well as whether you're on Apple or PC. Makes a difference.
I'll invest.
It's under participants, not reactions.
Yeah, it's under participants, I believe is correct. I don't have it as a host, but I don't know how many people see it under participants. I'll investigate it and let you guys know for future.
Mine is under reactions, and
now I don't really.
Yes, it depends on when you
lower hand.
It depends on whether or not you've updated your Zoom app. If you've updated your Zoom app, these things have just all changed.
That's not 100% true, Bob. Partially true. It depends on whether you have a Mac or a PC. You know, Apple or PC also makes a difference.
Yeah, see, all you guys should convert to Apple.
All right, we'll have a look at it and see if we can give you some more information on that. So unless someone else has something that they want to talk about, chime in.
Real quick, real quick, and we have our senior citizen, our true senior citizen, the oldest guy in the club, Bert Schaefer, on. And haven't heard from Bert in a long time. Bert, how are you doing? You're on mute right now, Bert.
Okay, now, you hear me now, right, Mike?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, and I had my shot at the VA yesterday. What Nelson says is very good. They're excellent over there in Philadelphia.
Good.
Good
for you. Nice to see you, Bert.
Okay, good to see everybody.
Same here, Bert.
All right, anybody else before we get off? You can, I'll leave the meeting, open if you want to just drop off. For those of you who want to stay and talk, you can stay for a minute or two or whatever.
I think Art's got a Zoomie coming up now.
Yeah,
Ron Ediger's hands up.
Investment club.
Art, you have a investment meeting? Art?
Wait a minute, he's got to figure it out.
I do.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. You want to remind everybody?
I actually just sent a chat message out.
Okay. All right.
Ed, Ron Ediger's hand's been up for a while.
Ron Ettinger. Okay.
My hand has gotten tired. Wait. Just a comment for those who are trying to schedule an appointment. I haven't, but I know a lot of people are double booking appointments, and because of all the different systems, they're able to actually get double appointments. So as they get the earlier appointment, hopefully they're canceling their second appointment. So the advice to keep checking the different systems, I think, is a good one, because appointments will open up as these people, cancel their second booking, which might be sooner than April or May.
I'm one of those people. I had registered. We got appointments, Camden County, Blackwood for mid-March, and then my wife and I were very lucky. We went down to the mega site in Rowan College of South Jersey in Sewell almost 2 weeks ago. We waited around in the cold for 2.5 hours, and they gave us shots. They let in people after they had closed and had leftover vials from no shows. And I got a text message a couple days ago saying I'm going to get an email to schedule the second visit, which will probably be February 9th. And as soon as that's scheduled, I am going to release my held appointments for mid-March at Camden County, Blackwood.
Hey, Larry, just so you know, I took a friend down there yesterday to get his, and you won't be so lucky as to get those hanging around shots. They're pretty right up to the edge. 2 weeks ago.
I think you were about the last day.
Yeah.
I know Alan Finkelstein went the next day, and he wasn't successful, and I haven't heard of anyone else that got him. This was back on January 19th. Yeah, I think that.
Right.
I stood in the cold, like 20 degrees for an hour and a half, and right at 6 o'clock, they announced it would still be another hour before they know if they had any vaccine left, and I left.
I had two patients on Friday who told me their appointments were canceled due to lack of vaccine, so they had to reschedule.
First or second?
The first.
Yeah, I think on the second, they're going to be, that's probably why they got canceled, because they want to make sure they don't have to revaccinate the people that had one and are queued up for number 2.
Rich, what happens if there is a cancellation? Does that push everybody back? Does the person who was supposed to go have top priority?
No.
Only you get pushed back. So I got my first shot yesterday at the Camden County College, and I will tell you that from the time I drove through the front gates till I left was 45 minutes total. If you have the opportunity, that is the place to go. They're doing 1,000 a day, and they have the system down. It was unbelievable how
organized. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very organized there. We went there also. I understand that Morristown Mall is organized also.
And once you get into the building at Rowan College, South Jersey, in Sewell, it's very well organized too. So the trick, of course, is getting in. But once you're in, they seem to have it down pretty well.
The Army
Yep.
boys were very, very nice and well organized. Like I
Yeah,
was saying.
military also running the show in Sewell.
Yep, yep. The only thing I had to do, since I had to push this person on a wheelchair, and you're going through like hall after hall after, it was like being in school, except you weren't learning anything
same
directly.
at Sewell.
You went through 3 buildings and it was,
Yeah, 3 buildings. In and out of the cold.
yeah.
It was worth it.
So it was otherwise good for him
I
anyway.
guess the recommendation for Alan is just keep trying. I think
keep
eventually
trying.
you'll get
And
something.
like I told you, I'll let you know when I'm logging on to cancel my Camden County Blackwood appointments, and maybe if the computer releases those time slots, you can swoop in and grab them. I can't give them to you, but I can tell you when I'm canceling, and that way you may be able to snag them before somebody else does.
Or check
If I
eBay.
walk up to one of those sites with this baseball cap on, will they recognize me as a veteran of the Jag?
They might just arrest you.
All right, I'm gonna get off because I gotta
Just
go.
think what SJMC stands for.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
All right, I'm signing off.
Good.
Good meeting, yes. Thank you. Good meeting.
Guys.
All right.
Good meeting.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, Ed. Stay well.
Be safe, everybody.
All right. Good luck.